Do you know what the weird thing I find about traveling is? It's the fact that, see, when you're like, oh, that was an amazing holiday, like when we were in Dublin, I think, oh, what, that was only like, what, 2, 3 years ago? That was 6 years ago, nearly.
Yeah, time's a flat circle. I think that goes as like a testament as well though, to how the memories you make when you travel though in a way that are so fresh and so vivid. Some of the ones I've shared today, like I was driving around Europe that time, and that was 2015, I believe. And so memories like that, they don't go away. I think the first time we went to Stockholm was a long time ago as well now. And you were mentioning school as well, and I think it just goes to show you traveling and tourism in general. It's like unbelievable that we're so lucky to be born in an era where we can do this, and we're lucky enough to have the funds to do it. Because yeah, the memories you make. I know it's a cliche to say, but I think you've kind of proved your own point now. But the memories last a lifetime.
Oh no, you're absolutely right. Because I always remember when we were in history class together and we learned about the, of all things, I can't believe I'm bringing this up years later, our teacher would be proud of us, but remember when we learned about the locomotives? And that was the beginning of when people in Britain started to go on beach holidays and things like that. That was kind of the first form of people going travelling for holidays, and obviously there's a big ruckus behind it of, oh, is it good, is it not? But you're completely right, it is amazing how, well, maybe not nowadays, but you know what I mean, it is relatively affordable now to be able to travel the world. It's so much easier just to pop on the internet, book a place and be like, oh, this looks like a good place, or oh, I don't know about that. And especially with the rise of Airbnbs as well, that's another thing that's, I mean, it's been going for the last, what, maybe 10 years. But yeah, things are changing though, aren't they?
One thing I've been quite conscious of is might draw the ire of some people, but here we go. So a couple of years ago, I went vegetarian.
Boo! For legal
Boo,
reasons, that was a
boo.
joke. Sorry.
Eat meat.
Beg your pardon.
So in our travels before the year 2020, I didn't really care about food or whatever. I would just eat whatever. I'm a lot more health conscious now, like I said, I'm also vegetarian. And so now I have to be a bit more savvy about where I go. And I can just do that on my phone. I can just look it up before I go. I can just type in, oh, is this place vegetarian friendly or not? It's so simple now to get access to any piece of information. Book any hotel. You mentioned Airbnb, but even things like hotels.com or whatever. They've got the biggest database ever gathered of anything. Most hotels and most places have like pictures now, so you can look ahead, Instagram, Facebook, whatever. And again, this has always been available in our adulthood, but the ease of it and how much I'm actually looking at because I need it has changed so much, and it's so easy. Like I went on holiday to France. I'm actually just back this week, and we're in this tiny wee town called Molayet. It's like a beach town. I can use the Happy Cow app, and it instantly just brings up every vegetarian option of every restaurant in the area. And it's like, that's unbelievable. Like, you can do that. So I just think, that side of it, the access of information, you can find out anything now so easily. You can book trips weeks, months in advance. Just we're so fortunate to be able to do that, I think.
Funny enough, when I was really young enough that I wouldn't have remembered it, but I went to Malta with my family, and I remember talking to my dad about it, and he was saying he didn't really enjoy it because this is something that I think every single British person probably will relate to at some point in their life, that see, when you go to another country, you want to have some degree of familiarity, but you still want something that's slightly different. I don't know how controversial this is going to be, but you go to places like Malta where half of it does, I mean, the country does speak English as its main language, but it also has Maltese as well. And it's got a fascinating history. I love Malta, but I remember my dad saying things like, oh, because there were so many British tourists there, they were quite unruly, which unfortunately is a stereotype for, I mean, I want to say it's more down south, but let's face it, I feel as if it's only more down south because there's more English people than Scottish people, but
it's only more down south because English football teams do better.
That is true. That is true. But I mean, when I went many years later to Malta, I absolutely loved it because we were out of that sphere of where all the British tourists were gathering. Don't get me wrong, obviously there was still tourists in the hotel, like a horror movie. They're in the hotel. But it was amazing to be able to see all of these places there without the pressure of someone coming up to you and being like, oh, we are from the UK. And it's like, yeah, I can see that. As they come draped in the Union Jack, of all places. I remember one year I ended up in Spain and we went to Valencia. That's a beautiful place, and it's been a while since I've been in Barcelona, but from what I remember of it, it was nice. But I also went to Benidorm just after Christmas time one year. I actually think it was probably the same year that you and I went to Dublin. It was nicer then because there wasn't as many, because Benidorm, for anyone who doesn't know, it's very infamously British. It might as well be the new Gibraltar, because the amount of British tourists, the amount of British businesses that set up there, it's absolutely crazy. So I apologise to all our Spanish listeners. Lo siento. But yeah, it was quite strange going from that and then you go to Valencia, which I know is a bigger city, but it's weird, isn't it? Other than obviously that guy. Have you ever had that?
Yeah, I think it is weird, and I think this comes back to kind of what you mentioned about familiarity versus things you're new to you, and everyone's got like a different threshold for that. Like I said, me and my wife, we don't like to stay in one place for very long. When we travel, we like to do like city hops and going around in a van or whatever. And so we kind of see both sides of that. And you see cities as well when you do this. You see certain cities are set up really well for tourists. Some cities set up well for tourists. I'd say some cities are set up too well for tourists. Like they cater into tourists. Barcelona's quite famous for this now. Like the locals hate it, how much it caters to tourists. But one that always strikes you is my brother. He used to be a rep for Thompson's, an entertainment rep. And so he was living out in, I want to say Mallorca. I can't remember if it was Mallorca or Mallorca at the time, which one he was at this for this season I'm talking about. But it was in one of like the proper British holiday resorts. And obviously it's like Thompson's Holidays. And there was 3 restaurants in the sort of little town attached to this hotel. There was just like a wee local restaurant. So it was like, that's where all the locals would go. There was, I can't remember what the other one was, just like a generic restaurant. And then the last one was like a British pub. And every single night, the British pub would be spilling out into the street. There was so many people trying to get into it. It was constantly busy, while the 2 more traditional places were just empty. And also, that was like fascinating because, you know, for me, traveling's all about seeing what locals up to and eating their food and trying things that they get up to. You know what I mean? I really like that side of travelling. Well, a lot of people just don't want that. They want to get Britain, just because obviously it's British people talking about, but they want to get Britain with a better climate. You know what I mean? So I always think it's a funny difference. So there is definitely, people are definitely comfortable with different levels of comfort.